What would happen if all federal money supporting PBS and NPR disappeared overnight? That's not just a hypothetical. It's a reality unfolding right now. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting, or CPB, which quietly supports nearly every local PBS and NPR station across America, is on the brink of shutting down. If you've ever tuned into Sesame Street, caught a local weather alert from public radio, or watched unbiased news coverage through PBS, this story directly impacts you. But what exactly is CPB? Why is it in the political crosshairs? And what's next for public media in the United States? The Corporation for Public Broadcasting is a private nonprofit created by Congress in 1967. Its purpose? To ensure public media serves the American people, not corporate or political interests. Importantly, CPB doesn't create programming. It doesn't own any stations. It doesn't even air content. Its role is to distribute federal funding, over $500 million annually, to support local TV and radio stations, especially those in rural and underserved communities. That includes PBS, NPR, and over 1,500 local outlets. In fact, more than 70% of CPB's funding goes directly to these local stations. Less than 5% is used to run CPB itself. It's lean, quiet, and essential. Where does the money go? In fiscal year 2025, CPB received about $535 million in federal funding. Around $230 million of that went straight to local public television and radio stations. Another portion supported system-wide infrastructure like satellite distribution and emergency alerts. The rest funded national program content, educational resources, and innovation grants for public media growth. Many stations use CPB funds as a lifeline to stay on air. This is especially critical in rural areas where commercial media has little incentive to operate. You might assume NPR and PBS don't rely heavily on federal funds. But that's not entirely true. While their national headquarters generate revenue through corporate sponsorships and member donations, local affiliate stations rely on CPB grants for survival. Since PBS content is carried through those affiliates, the shutdown of small stations directly impacts programming availability. In fact, about 15 to 16% of PBS's total revenue is tied to federal support, and that percentage is much higher for smaller stations. NPR also depends on local station dues, many of which can't be paid if those outlets lose CPB grants. So, what changed? Why is CPB in the news now? In May 2025, the President signed Executive Order 14290, effectively halting federal funding to CPB. The administration cited concerns over media bias, fiscal discipline, and the need to prioritize essential government services. Then in June, Congress followed through with a bill rescinding over $1.1 billion in CPB-related funding over the next 2 years. The vote passed largely along party lines, with Democrats opposing and Republicans supporting the measure. By August 1st, CPB leadership announced it will begin shutting down operations, laying off staff, and transitioning responsibilities by early 2026. The implications are enormous. Without CPB, hundreds of local stations may close or drastically cut programming. Emergency broadcasting systems, especially critical in tornado-prone and wildfire-stricken regions, could go dark. Educational shows like Arthur, Curious George, or Nova may vanish from airwaves in places where parents can't afford streaming subscriptions. Minority voices, rural communities, and underrepresented cultures often find a platform only through public media. With CPB gone, those voices could be silenced. If you're learning something new or care about how this impacts your community, hit like, share this video, and drop a comment with your thoughts. Also, don't forget to subscribe. Your support makes independent storytelling possible. Critics of public broadcasting argue that taxpayer money shouldn't support media with perceived ideological bias. Some claim NPR and PBS lean left politically, undermining neutrality. But public media leaders stress that CPB funding ensures editorial independence. Without it, they argue, corporate sponsorships could exert undue influence on content. CPB's internal structure requires that no more than 5 of its 9 board members be from the same political party. Its charter also prohibits funding content that advances any one political or religious viewpoint. Supporters of public broadcasting note that CPB funding costs taxpayers about $1.50 to $2 per person annually, less than a cup of coffee. In return, citizens receive commercial-free content, children's programming, civic journalism, local arts coverage, and educational resources for teachers and students. Surveys consistently show that around two-thirds of Americans support continued federal funding for CPB. They view public media as a trusted source of information, especially in an age of misinformation, deepfakes, and partisan spin. Legal challenges are already unfolding. NPR has filed suit against the executive order, citing First Amendment violations and breach of statutory funding guarantees. Meanwhile, grassroots fundraising is seeing a surge. Many viewers and listeners are donating directly to stations to keep them alive. Some stations have begun crowdfunding campaigns, cutting staff, or reducing their broadcast hours. Others are seeking partnerships with universities or nonprofits to survive. So what's next? The federal budget for 2026 may hold answers. Lawmakers could reinstate CPB funding if political tides shift. Or CPB could dissolve entirely, leaving public media to fend for itself in the private sector. That would likely favor urban, wealthy communities while rural and low-income Americans lose access to vital news and education services. If you're concerned, there are a few things you can do right now. Call or email your congressional representative. Support your local PBS or NPR station with a donation. Share this video to spread awareness. The future of public media is being shaped in real time, and every voice matters. To recap, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting is a cornerstone of the American media landscape. It quietly powers over 1,500 local stations, ensures educational content for kids, and delivers crucial news without commercial interruption. But it's facing its greatest threat in decades, with federal funding now revoked and shutdown proceedings underway. Whether you view public media as a political tool or a national treasure, its future deserves your attention. The conversation about CPB isn't just about money. It's about what kind of country we want to be. One that values independent journalism, universal access to education, and cultural preservation. Or one that lets market forces decide whose stories get told. As this controversy unfolds, keep watching, keep questioning, and keep caring.